Hey guys, about a year ago I was approached by my sister about my Audio Technica M50Xs. She wanted to know why I was making videos on cheap headphones and suggested instead that I review products that are more expensive from more well-known brands. My reaction was pretty simple. I lost my shit and told her I'd forked out $250 for those headphones and asked her what the hell she was talking about. And the problem was, she'd never heard of Audio Technica before. You see, she thought that it was just some cheap Kmart brand, which got me thinking, just how much better are these headphones than a cheap pair from Kmart? So I went on the usual late night 2 a.m. Kmart run and bought a super stylish pair of $10 headphones and set about making a comparison between them and the now $200 M50Xs. Getting the looks out of the way early, the M50Xs have a very clean and understated look that I personally kind of like, but apparently makes them unrecognizable to people who aren't in the know. The Kmart headphones are a stark contrast in comparison. They're really loud looking with their bright fake wood grain finish and varying materials. I've got to give them props for making a decent looking pair of headphones for so cheap. It's just a question of personal taste and willingness to give pulling them off a go. Now that we've got looks sorted, let's get into how they actually sound. Now, if you're considering buying a $10 pair of headphones, then you're probably not using a proper audio setup with external amps and DACs. So for relevancy's sake, and mostly because I actually don't own any of that equipment yet, I'm going to be using my HTC 10, a previous generation flagship with a decent audio implementation with boom sound switched off. That should give us an accurate representation of what most people will be using. Straight out the gates, the cheap pair surprised me with their heavy bass and loud high frequencies. That being said, they're not exactly clear and you can't really tell where they're coming from, you just kind of hear them. As opposed to the M50Xs, where you can tell that the bass is coming from either a drum or the strum of a guitar, the Kmart ones just kind of make a noise. They also get very loud, although they distort a lot at max volumes. Speaking of which, they somehow managed to afford inline controls with a volume slider that works independently from the phone, and a button that with a single click acts as a play-pause button and skips songs with a double click. It even has an inline mic, not that that makes up for the poor audio quality though. The things these headphones do to vocals should be considered a crime against humanity. It sounds like someone else doing a cover of your favorite song over the radio. I'm not sure how they managed to take such a clean signal, which I know judging by how the M50Xs sound, and turn it into something that sounds like it's being blasted over a radio tower from 100 k's away over AM. Speaking of the M50Xs, when you put them on for the first time, you hear things that you've never heard before, especially compared to the Kmart pair. It's like every single instrument, backing vocal, and electronic beat are clearly distinguishable simultaneously. It also helps that the M50Xs actually seal properly around my ears. Although at first they were extremely uncomfortable, I've since learnt how to wear them so that they don't put pressure along the wrong part of my ears, and they're actually kind of comfortable now, especially compared to the Kmart ones. Those sit at a complete angle on your ears with the top part basically completely open. They could really benefit from a hinge for the driver section, but that would probably increase the price massively. The M50Xs are also basically universally praised for their sound accuracy. Not that I can confirm or deny that given my lack of audio equipment, but it is something to still keep in mind. The build quality is another place where you can really tell the difference. The Kmart pair have somehow managed to squeeze in headband padding and extendable ear cups in their $10 budget, but it's not exactly a smooth experience, with one side being harder to move than the other and the whole thing being pretty hard to get right. The ear cups are also way too firm, but the material covering them is soft enough. The braided cable is a nice touch, but it's too short to be used for anything other than a phone in your pocket, which makes sense given the inline mic and other functionality included. On the other end of the scale, you have the M50Xs. They don't need exotic looking materials to make up for a lack of build quality, with plastic being used almost entirely, although you can barely tell with the tight manufacturing tolerances that mean that even after a year of use, they've only gotten more comfortable, yet just as solid feeling when it comes to the articulating parts, which it has plenty of. You can fold them up to fit them in a bag, swivel it around to look like a fully synced DJ, or even disconnect the cable and replace it with one of the 3 included in the box, which aren't standard, so you can't use them with other stuff, whatever. I got blasted for mentioning that in my review. Leave me alone. I got excited because I thought I'd have extra aux cables laying around. Can never get enough of those. So when it comes down to it, are the $200 M50Xs really 20 times better than the $10 Kmart ones? Yeah, pretty much. In terms of just being a pair of headphones for your music listening experience, do you really need to spend $200? Absolutely not. But spending $10 on a pair of headphones that waste money on things like braided cables and inline controls instead of a solid sounding driver and cup design is like buying a push bike with square wheels, no seat and a phone mount because Ferraris are too expensive. Either buy yourself a proper push bike if you're in it for the hobby, or get yourself a car if you're trying to get somewhere and make money. Yeah, that's probably one of the weirdest analogies I've ever come up with, but if you think about it for a bit, it kind of makes sense. Except for in the supercar world of headphones, the M50Xs are more GTR than they are Ferrari. Although that probably only makes sense if you're into cars. Oh, and if you insist on only spending around $10, then go for earphones instead of headphones, because usually for the money they sound better. Check out the MX170s I reviewed up here. Up there. It's over there. Click on it. Up, like... Alright, if you like this video, please do hit that like button and get subscribed so I can feed my ego, as well as this cute little bunny rabbit. And follow me on Instagram, the link's in the description along with all my other socials and even a Spotify playlist. Oh, and most importantly guys, have a good one. Have a good one. Have a good one. Have a good one.